Hello and welcome to the Girl That Went For It podcast. I'm your host, Johanna Scholz, also known as Johanna Lian on Instagram, and author of Believe in Life, How to Dance in the Rain. If you want to live your dream life and become the best version of yourself, then this podcast is for you. I hope that I can inspire and encourage you to never give up and to always believe in yourself. Feel free to follow me on Instagram, Johanna_Liana, for daily content. And now enjoy this episode. Hi guys, and welcome to this new episode. Today is all about main character energy and becoming the main character of your life in 2024 if you're not already are the main character. If you're not already are, yeah, that's the right English grammar. And I want to start this episode with a question for you. Are you taking full responsibility for your life? There's only yes and no. Are you taking full responsibility for your life? What I mean by that is, are you taking responsibility of how you react to certain situations, how you act, how you feel? Or do you let others decide how you should react, how you should act, and how you should feel? You are the main character of your life. Always remember that. And in this episode, I want to share a personal experience. I want to share tips of how you can become the main character of your life if you struggle with that. And I'm going to ask you some questions. So yes, I hope you enjoy this episode. Feel free to share this episode with a friend. That would mean a lot to me. Let's dive into it. So my personal story goes back to 2014. 10 years ago was the year I traveled to New Zealand the first time. I had no idea what to expect. I never really looked up anything about New Zealand. The reason why I chose New Zealand was because everyone was going to Australia, and I was like, you know what? I'm doing something different. So when I traveled to New Zealand, I had no expectations, which is always, I think, the best when you don't have any expectations. It just turns out the best. And when I was here, I fell in love with this country. I fell in love with the vibes. I fell in love with the lifestyle. I met this family, and she was German, and she had family here, and she actually doesn't know, but her family has plays such a big role in my visualization, because she had a husband here, or has a husband still here, kids, and they were growing up here, are still growing up here, and all that. But for me, this was that was my goal, and I could visualize it because I saw it, because I saw she had the life that I dreamed of, and I knew deep down that this was possible for me. So 2014 is such a big year for me, where the life I'm living now started. So I traveled to New Zealand, and I had to go back after 6 months because something happened at home, and it was time for family time. I can just give you a brief update on what happened, because maybe some of you haven't followed me for that long. I mean, that's 10 years. So I actually don't know the first year that my brother got diagnosed with cancer. 2014 was the first time, it was time for chemotherapy, and that was exactly the time that I was in New Zealand. And to be honest, I feel like everything that happened, not saying it happened for a reason, because I wish this would have never ever happened. I was and still feel so close to my brother, and you always think it's never going to happen in our family. When I was a kid, I thought, oh no, it's not going to happen to us, and then it happens, and that's reality. And if you're going through something like that, just know you're not alone, and you can talk about it. I didn't talk about it for a long time, and then I finally did, and I felt so much better. But coming back to 2014, so I went back home. My brother started the therapy, and I just felt so torn. I think because New Zealand, I just felt so myself, and I felt so free. I felt so truly myself. I think it's also because I traveled by myself. I could become the person that I wanted to be. I met new people, and all that. And then I came back to Germany and reality hit. So it was like literally this from 100% like traveling, amazing life in New Zealand, or like 6 months in New Zealand, going back to Germany, and reality hits. And this longing for going back to New Zealand was so strong for me. But now with everything that happened at home, it was just really hard to go back. But I want to say here, I chose the feelings. I chose how I reacted to the situation. I chose how I reacted. I learned a lot about myself during that journey. My brother taught me so incredibly much. He was the most positive, most mindful person I've ever met. He taught my whole family just so much. And I wouldn't be where I am today without him. He was the one that encouraged me, that told me, go to New Zealand and try and like figure out if this is your dream, like your dream life, if this is really your dream, if this is what you want to do. So he plays a huge, huge part of that. But for me as well, I had this guilt when I went back to Germany 2015. When I went back to Germany 2015, I was really depressed because of the things that happened, and because all I wanted was to go back to New Zealand. I wanted everything to be okay. I wanted everything to be okay as it was before I left for New Zealand. I was just in this desperate time of my life. But I decided I learned that life happens right now. Like, that's something I've learned in such early stage of my life, that life happens right now, and that life is so incredibly precious. And so everything got better. Like doctors said, it's getting better, and so on and so forth. I studied in Germany, but I always had this goal. Of going back to New Zealand after my studies. That was like, for me, that was it. Like, that was for me, yes, this is my goal, and it feels so right in my heart, in my soul. I know that this is possible for me. And here, this is the main character energy. I knew that this was possible for me. And that is main character energy. That is you deciding that this is possible for you. That is you standing up for your goals. That is you looking for solutions and not excuses. That is you deciding you are making this happen. That is main character energy. And what I did to be where I am today is to never lose sight of my goal, to always knew that this is what I'm gonna do after I finish my studies. I put money aside. I looked up certain different ways how to make this work, and I stopped looking for excuses, because I gotta say, the first time when I got back, I didn't have any money left because I spent it all while I was traveling in New Zealand. I was also just out of high school, so I haven't really worked much yet. And then the things happened at home, and for me, this little voice in my head, or no, the louder voice in my head said, no, you can't go to New Zealand. You will never have enough money to do that. No one out of your family ever moved that far away. And what if something bad happens and cancer comes back and your brother won't be there anymore? You are the only one to look after your parents. That these were my first thoughts. And these were my thoughts for a long time, but I learned, I think 2017 was the first time I talked about my low after New Zealand. I actually posted a YouTube video back then. 2017, that's over, like, that's 2 years later. But I talked about this with my parents. I never talked about the fact with what if my brother passed away, because I never wanted to think about this, because that's just something you don't want to think about. Of course, I had these thoughts, and I prayed so much. I was asking, like, God, please don't take this person away from me. But it's life, right? 2019 in July. No, not in July. Oh, yes, in July. Things got worse and worse. And in August, my brother passed away, 2019. And I had flights booked for the 30th of August. My brother's birthday would have been the 29th. And I said, I'm going to be here for your birthday. And then I'd go and follow my dream. That was before we knew what's going to happen in that year. Like, I booked the flights in February and no one knew what's going to happen in these 8 months. And this is just your reminder. Just let me tell you this, life is so precious. Tell your loved ones that you love them. Show them that you love them. And never ever go to sleep fighting with your loved one, like with your partner or your parents. Always tell them that you love them. Anyway, I'm sharing this to help you. I'm not sharing this I hope I don't make you sad, because that's the last thing I want to do. And I hope that this doesn't trigger you. And if you're going through something like that, feel free. You can always reach out to me. I'm happy to share my experience. I know this is something we don't talk often enough about, but just know you're not alone. And what I want to say here is, I changed my flight. So I was meant to go end of August. I changed it to end of September. And a lot of people ask me, and I actually don't really know, like, how did you do that? And looking back now, over 4 years ago, I don't know how my 23-year-old me did it. I think I just knew deep down, my intuition told me to go and follow that dream. I've been waiting for this moment for 4-5 years. And I knew I need this. I need this to heal. And I owe it to my brother, because I promised him I'm going to do it. And I owe it to myself. I owe it so much to myself after all the suffering, through all the suffering that I was going through. I so owed it. Is that how you say it? Owed it to myself to go and follow my dream. I decided to make myself the main character and go and follow my dream. I knew that no one else is going to do it for me. I talked to my parents about it, and my parents are the best. They said, don't worry about us. You have to look after yourself. You are not responsible to look after ourselves, after ourselves. You know what I mean? I'm not responsible to look out for them. Although I felt like this, and although, like, I'm so close with my parents, I still feel like, I look out for them. But the reason why I'm saying this is because a lot of people text me and ask me, how could you, like, do the step? And what about your parents when they get older? And I had this conversation with my parents, and they said, look, we are still young. Like, don't waste your dream thinking about the future, like 30, 40 years from now, and then don't, like, go because of that, because you're thinking about, like, 40 years from now when we're old and gray. Like, you know what I mean? And I love that my parents said this. And I know that one girl reached out to me, and she said that her mom it's really hard for her mom to let her go. And I just feel, all I can say is have an open conversation, say how you feel. This is your life, okay? You only have one shot, and I want you to take responsibility for how your life looks like. I'm not saying be cold-hearted or ignore your family. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying become the main character of your life and take responsibility of how your life looks like. Think about all the characteristics a main character in a movie has. I'm going to read a few to you, but make a list of main character characteristics. The main character goes for it. He or she believes in themselves, and the main character always wins. The main character also doesn't have to try, the main character tries, fails, but then wins when you think about the main character in movies, right? And another characteristic is a main character looks for ways and solutions and not for excuses. Another main character characteristics that I think and I want to integrate in my life, and I do integrate in my life, is stop thinking about the worst case scenario and start thinking about the best case scenario. What if it does work out? What if it does work out better than you've imagined? I said this in an episode before, and I say it again, what if it does work out better than you would ever imagine? And that's something I can say about my life. Of course, I wish things were different, 100%. And with the upcoming wedding, I'm just gonna honestly open my heart up on here and make myself vulnerable. I had so many downs already because this is something that I know I accept it, but it still hurts. I won't be able to share this beautiful event with my brother. I know he's always around, I can feel him. I know he knows. That's just something I believe, but it is still super hard and I accept it. So that's also, I would say, a main characteristic. I accept what I can't change and I decide how to feel with it. I decide to move on, but I also decide to honor him, to talk about him because he deserves to be talked about. He was the best person I've ever met. But what I want to say here is that your life can still become your dream life. I'm so grateful for where I am today, and you can be so grateful for where you are right now. If you're going through tough times, know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. If you haven't read my book yet, that I think I published it 2.5 years ago. It's called Believe in Life, How to Dance in the Rain. There's one chapter all about how to make life beautiful again. And while I was writing that book, so much healing took place. And that is also another main character thing. I wrote this book because I said I'm going to write a book. And I went through with it. I went for it. And I want you to reflect on your life and see and reflect if you are the main character of your life. If you have these characteristics, and also make a list with characteristics of main characters. What do they do? How do they react, act, and feel? And if you don't feel like you are the main character of your life, if you feel like I'm not there yet, that's okay. Make a list of things you have to change. Make a list of things you want to attract into your life, feelings you want to attract into your life, behaviors you want to implement, habits you want to implement into your life in 2024 that make you the main character. Think about things that make you happy, fill up your cup, and how you can integrate them into 2024. Because your life happens right now. And it is time for you to become the main character. What are you waiting for? You're not going to be the main character when you do this and that, and when you achieve that and this. You can be the main character right now. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And I hope this inspired you to become the main character of your life. I just want to say here that I am offering a new group coaching, which is called Mindful Evolution. And if you feel like you need more input, you need more mindset work, then this is the right one for you. We're going to have 4 live calls. You will have access to the recordings afterwards, so you can rewatch the live calls. You will get worksheets to the live calls where it's all about mindset evolution, and how to become the main character of your life, literally. And yeah, I can't wait to see you there. I leave all the links in here. Oh, there's one link, not the links. And feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about the group coaching. I can't wait to see you there.